Thank you for joining this podcast once again today. I hope it's been useful, and thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing this. I'm just glad with the privilege I have to share some thoughts with you, majorly from the principles of Scripture, to help you make success of life and eternity, and to ensure that there's knowledge added to your zeal. I've been on the Bro Code series, just talking to men. There will be a number of them in the lifetime of this podcast. But I've been talking about the travails of the pregnant husband, really dealing with how a pregnant man, please permit me to use that term, your wife is pregnant, and how you can walk through that season, enjoy it, and make the best of it. Right. I did like a broad overview last time, and I told you 3 things that you need to recognize about pregnancy. Today, I want to take it a step further for you to know some changes you should be willing to accept, and some changes you are willing to adjust to, because adjustment is a major part of the pregnancy process. We were newlyweds. We were having a time of our lives, enjoying that we now have our dream home. We have been in courtship for some years. I just loved one another, loved what we were. My wife used to be a very so in this part of the world we say straight lady. She was just beautiful, and she is still just stunning up until now. She has this slim stature, beautiful to look at. Just a handful, tall but easy to carry. That's what she was. And certain changes began to happen. In fact, the first what made us begin to check what was going on was that she now began to have some pain, some pelvic pains, and some tummy aches and all of that. And we had gone to the hospital and had an interesting diagnosis. I'd called a relative, and the relative said, "Why don't you guys first of all check if she's pregnant before you begin to use all the antibiotics?" And thank God we did, because when we went to check, we found out that she was pregnant. Now the reality now set on us. We were joyful because we were going to be parents. But just by the next morning, reality set in. The nausea started. The morning sicknesses started. She just could not hold anything down. She was throwing up at everything, wasn't eating, And so you see that happen. They call it morning sickness. Now, I'm not going to attempt to be medical because I'm not a medical doctor, but I'll just tell you what I saw, right? And what I needed to do to adjust to it. The morning sickness was there. Sometimes it looked unbearable. Sometimes we're just having a safe gist, a safe conversation, and she just go boom, and that's it. And that's the next 2 hours where the whole place is in a mess. But some of the major things that we needed to come to terms with in that time is the fact that you are not sick. She told me one day, said, why must pregnancy come with sickness? I said, well, they call it morning sickness, but you are not sick. Your body is just adjusting to having another life. Your hormones are really rioting at this point. We had to learn that. And so there will be the morning sickness. Now guys, you might have to do some real tough things. We had dedicated bowls in the house just for her to be able to throw up anytime she has to. Is in the sitting room, is in the room. She can throw up, and guess who is going to trash it? Yours truly. I had to do that. At that point, it was just the 2 of us in the house anyway. Had to learn to care for her with that. I had to clean up. She didn't like it, but I had to. And see, because she is my wife, she's bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, right? We are consented to the pregnancy together. And so here we are, married young couple in our 20s, but guess what? Reality is there. So the nausea would happen. Another change you will see is that your wife's moods might change. She might not be and some women, all of this don't happen to them. Yeah. But for some, their moods will just change. They might be the life of the party, guys who can book here and there. But as pregnancy begins to set in, the hormones shoot all kinds of moods. I told you in the last podcast how my very dear friend's wife was just crying for no reason. And that can happen a number of times in pregnancy. I've seen that a number of times where someone just call me, "Pastor, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just not happy. What is wrong?" And then she just begin to cry. And I'll say, okay, just because you're pregnant, how can I be crying because I'm pregnant? But I don't know. I don't know what that is called scientifically, but yeah, that happens. The moods just begin to change. Now, guys, it might seem at that point that she's not loving you like she used to. She's not as head over heels like she used to. It might seem like she doesn't care like she used to. It might seem like you are not sweeping her off her feet like you used to. No, it is not so. It's not entirely about you. In fact, what happens is that when a woman is pregnant, she feels less attractive. She feels like I'm becoming a burden to my spouse, to my husband, to my male husband. I thought to say that clearly, right? She feels I'm unattractive. She feels like I'm giving him too many headaches. She feels like, see what I've turned him into. Now see how he has to run helter-skelter just for me to be fine. And that could also impact on their mood. So the way you are feeling, she does not regard, she's tired, she's not loving you, she's also feeling the same way. But one thing you need to trust God for strength for is to keep on the love quotient. Yeah, keep it on, even with all you see. Sometimes you need to get into the bathroom and vent and say what's going on with you, self, just on your own, and then come out loving. Are you pretending? No, you are not. You are setting yourself in the right place. Jesus, on that, just before he was crucified, left his 3 disciples, walked into Gethsemane, the Garden of Gethsemane, fell on the floor and began to cry, Lord, I wish this cup could pass over me, but not thine will, but yours be done. It's now time for your son to be glorified. He has glory. And he was just dead. The Bible said he was weeping. His sweat was as thick as blood. But when he came out to his disciples, he said, guys, you can't even tarry with me for an hour. He went back again, was struggling with God. God, I wish this would not happen. He came back, boldness. Now the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Now, it wasn't pretending, right? He dealt in the secret with the things he needs to deal with, and then he came out with the open, with the visage, with the looks that he needed to come out with. So get into the bathroom, take a drive. I remember one day I just said, I'm coming. She said, where are you going? I said, maybe I wanted to buy. I'm just coming. I want to pick up some groceries. I want to buy fuel. I'll soon be back. I got into the car, drove, and I ranted at myself. What is even the problem? Are you the first that will get pregnant? What's this? I alone. And then on my way back, I bought her favorite snack. I was smiling. She said, well, I said this is what I went to get. Oh, thank you for loving me. Inside me, I said, if you know what I've said today. But I wouldn't say that to her, because now the next thing, a pregnant woman becomes more sensitive. The same way they could be sensitive to touch, but more sensitive to the things you say. So what you used to joke about before, don't joke about it anymore. Someone said to me, he said, one of the jokes we need to, when I'm joking with my wife, I say, look at your nose. They're just joking. That's what they've done since courtship. Now she's pregnant, and one day they say, look at your nose. And she just say, you see, my nose is broader. My nose is, see, you're abusing my nose. And then she began to cry. Is this nose ever going to get better? I said, no. We've always said this to one another. I said, you mean something else now. You are really talking to me about my nose. I said, so I've done everything. She said she would tie her. She's going to tie something on her nose just to put her nose back in shape. She becomes more sensitive. And so be mindful what you say and what you do. And be clear when you've said something and it's not understood, come back and explain it. Don't begin to say, why are you thinking that way? Yes, she would think that way because she's pregnant and you made her so. So she becomes more sensitive. Another change you will see is that the body structure might begin to change. Right, so some people, they gain more weight. For some people, the face becomes broader, the nose becomes broader. Sometimes some of them can have what seems to be like an edema, that water has been built up, the legs are swollen. Of course, that is medical. You need to seek help. Yeah, please do well to seek quick help for that matter. But the body structures begins to change, and you might not be the same size. What's the small size? Size 6. So lady that you are known might be a bit bigger. and all of that. Of course, as you're going through the trimesters, the belly begins to get bigger and bigger, and all of that. Body structure will change, but it's still your same beautiful wife. Your same beautiful wife. I'll tell you this joke. I had just gone to see someone, and he had this tech guy, whatever he was doing, whether it was UI, UX, or designs, I don't know what exactly he was doing. And he had his laptop on the table, and that laptop was scary. You will find sellotape on some point. You'll see it is cracked, and he just sellotapes it. You'll see it is in terrible shape. Practically, had to bandage the thing with something, And then the guy came with so much joy, opened his laptop, and was working with joy. And I was almost saying that, Oga, look at what you are working with. It's all tattered and all of that. At some point, he looked and said, "Are you looking at my laptop?" He said, "Forget about what it looks like. What is inside it is something else." He said, "On this laptop, I've done things for multinationals. I've done things," and began to mention his clientele. He was just talking about it anyway. And it dawned on me that although the physical structure is a mess, the software is still the same. Your wife is still the same wife. The body structure might have changed. And guess what? If you can wait long enough and look long enough, she's going to look more beautiful. Things might have changed. Someone said my head is getting flat. That's not really true. Just the way you are seeing yourself. But body structures will change. And you must be willing to respond to it. The last thing I'd like to mention in terms of the changes is that appetite will now change. She might have loved ice cream, but now she abhors it. She might have loved to eat a particular meal, and now she eats it. In fact, appetite sometimes is as much as the space she likes to be. Sometimes I have found some women who just don't want to leave their rooms in pregnancy. Every other place nauseates them. And there are some who just don't want to be in their house. Like my wife would say, is what the baby is asking for. It's true sometimes. It's just the body, it's just everything that is knocked out of shape, and then you need to respond to. And then you need to be able to respond to this. Now, guess what? You're wondering, is this not too much for the man to face? The truth is God has given us grace. Just like the woman has the grace to carry the pregnancy to term, has the grace to pull to bed with that much pain, the same way you have the capacity, God has given you the grace to carry your wife through this season. And guess what? You will need this season to grow yourself. I found out that my tolerance level keeps going higher and higher as I walk through my wife in pregnancy. I can tolerate more. So sometimes she feels, why didn't you talk about this? Did this not affect you? And I say, really, it didn't. Because I built some muscles in the pregnancy. Oh yeah, but there will be times that you can't take it. When you can't take it, sometimes you need to explain that, you know what, I'm also pretty tired. I need to take a little time off. And please, my dear sisters, don't say to your husband, are you the one carrying the baby? What about me that is carrying the baby? Can I carry it, and can I remove the baby and say, oh, the baby for some time? Me too, I want to have a time off. Guess what? You have the grace to consistently carry the baby. He does not have that same grace. But sometimes you are also tired. You feel like taking the baby out so that you can sleep well. You feel if it is possible to just bring the baby, put it in a box, put the few towels in a box, close the box, and the baby is healthy, and you can just have a sound night's sleep. And you can sleep on your tummy, not on your side like is recommended, right? You also wish to do that. So allow him sometimes to say, I just need some time off. I just need to take some time off. And I trust that if you understand one another, that wouldn't be a problem. Another major thing you will need to do sometimes as you need to make this adjustment is to know that these adjustments are not eternal. There are adjustments you make that is going to be there forever. When my wife was pregnant with our third daughter, the sound of the phone ringing, the ringing tone of the phone, regardless of the ringtone, would nauseate her. So my phone was consistent in silent mode. Ours was consistent in silent mode. As at the time of this recording, that little girl is close to 7 years, and she still cannot cope with the sound of her phone ringing up until today, 7 years down the line, right? So it says to me that, guess what? There are adjustments you make that can take a long time before you can make adjustments, before you can get back to default mode, but there are some that is just for a little time. So know that certain things are just temporary. And finally, understand that there is no adjustment that is too much for the one you love. Christ did much. And that's why the Bible says he didn't compare himself, he didn't think it robbery to be equal to God, but he condescended to die for our sins, not just a normal death, but a death on the cross. Are you seeing that? He could condescend because of love. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, and whosoever believes in him will not perish. See how far he went because he loved the world. Paul will say in Ephesians chapter 5, that husband, love your wives as Christ loved the church and laid down his life for the church. Now, not just laying down his life on the cross or alone, he came to live on earth, to live amongst the things he created, to be limited by the things he created, to be beaten by the things he created, to be spat on by the things he created, to have his hands nailed to the cross by the things he created, just out of love. How far can you go simply because you love your spouse? I hope this has been useful. I will be glad to see you in the next edition, and I know that will bless you also. God bless you.